Hello and welcome to Talk God.
It's as much about you as it is about us here in the studio.
If God is for you, no one can be against you.
Today you can be free. You can have your sins forgiven.
It's Thursday the 14th of May, and this is Simply the Truth live with me, Doug Harris. Thank you for joining. Great to have two guests with me today. Julian Thomas, who most of you will recognise. They've let you out of Wales again, Julian.
Got to pay to get back in.
You've got to pay to get back in. I tell you, it really is hardship, isn't it? I don't know why all those Welsh people pay to get back in. I really don't. But great to have you with us. Julian runs the, as you saw underneath, you'll see under his name, Complete Package Ministries. He's told you about that before, but if after the show you want to get more details of Julian and want to make contact with him, if you email us or contact the office, we will pass on all the details to you. And then Dominic Squibb. Now, Dominic, you were with us about a year ago.
That's right,
wasn't
yes.
it? When we did a whole programme on London City Mission, which is who you are part of. Of course, the whole subject of the programme today is service. What does it mean to take up your cross? What does it mean to be a servant of the Lord? Please don't switch off at this point. We want to make it as real as possible, but also to see if God calls us to do something, then we're able to do it. But what do these phrases mean? It's so easy. I can remember, bandying them round myself and also having them said to me, oh, you've got to take up your cross daily. You need the cross in your life. That was fine. I had no idea what it meant. But when I got to know what it meant, I began to see some changes taking place in my life, which, as Dominic has said, are still going on, because in the end, no matter how long you've been on the road, no matter how long you've been a Christian, we need to continue to be changed into his likeness. There were just times, I can remember looking back in my life, there are times when you just don't feel you could go on any longer. And it's interesting, we're talking about service here. Maybe we could just begin to introduce it, Julian, and give some idea in the overall of what it means to serve the Lord. And maybe, if you've got some thoughts, what do you do when you get to the stage where you think, I can't do it any longer? Where do we go?
It's interesting. We don't really know the circumstances into which we're praying, but obviously we serve a God who knows the circumstances and will send the right help to the needs. And there are times. This time last year, I was going through a time where I was kind of with Paul, where Paul wrote, is it Romans 7, oh wretched man that I am, everything that I want to do, I do not do, and all the good I'm trying to do, evil sits there with me, and sometimes that evil can kind of take over, and it can kind of get in there without you noticing, and something like that happened to me last year, and I got to thinking, well, what am I doing? Who do I think I am then? Right. And for a short time there, the evil one had the upper hand, And you do feel like, well, if this is the service, then I think I'll just go and be something else, because this is not easy. This is quite tough. But service is like that in whatever you do. I can honestly say I felt like that in my secular jobs as well. That there were times when I just went, well, what am I doing here? And when I could be there, or I could be doing something else, or I could be having more money, or working with better people, or you always can feel like that. But what we need to do is to look up. Somebody once. Can
you explain it? I use that terminology, and so I'm not just picking you up on it. And it's and of course, when we use such terminology, we know what we mean by it. Okay. But can you? Yeah, we do need to look away from. Can you try and explain that a little bit more?
There's a guy called Carmen, way back when. You and I would remember. Those a bit younger may not. But he was a tremendously powerful singer and actor. And he said a few things which stuck with me. One of the things he said was, somebody came to me and said, I said to them, how are you today? And they said, well, I'm fine under the circumstances. And of course, Carmen, being Carmen, said, well, what are you doing under the circumstances? Get up from out under the circumstances and get on top of the circumstances. Now, again, that's easier said than done. But what I mean by look up is to look away from your circumstances, because your circumstances, it's like standing next to a tree.
Yes.
And all you can see is the tree.
Yes.
You can't see the beauty of the woods. So you take a few steps back and take a deep breath, and you think, right, I'm not going to deal with that lot now. I'm just going to take a wide view of where I am. Right. What am I doing? Who are my friends? Who are my family? Who can I trust? Who aren't so trustworthy? And just have a look at the whole thing for a couple of days. Step back and then look up, because when I say look up, I mean look to Christ. Because when you talk about one you can trust, there he is, and he's with you the whole step of the way, you know. Again, there's that lovely old Christian cliche about the footprints in the sand. Yes. And the story goes that somebody was dreaming about their life, and some walk as a walk through the, and for some of the time there are two footprints where Christ was clearly walking side by side, and there were times where there was only one set, and those times were the most trying and difficult times. So, of course, when he got to the other end, he questioned the Lord. Well, why was I on my own during those really tiresome and troublesome times? And Christ told him, well, actually you weren't on your own. That one set of footprints was when I picked you up and I carried you through. Amen. Now, we don't feel like that when we're being carried through. I can certainly say this time last year I didn't feel like that. But when you look back in retrospect, you can take the lesson. I look back and I think, wow, he was there, she was there, my wife, my family, those in the church, they were there for me. And if they weren't there for me, I certainly wouldn't be sitting here now. I think I probably would have given up the ghost and just gone off and get wrecked, and probably be dead by now. Because that's in me. That's the thing I have to struggle with every day. So when I say look up, what I mean is look up over the circumstances. Get out from under there. Step back, look over it, look at the beauty of the forest that you're in, look at the beauty of the trees, not just the wood, and you'll soon find a new perspective on where you are, and think about those people you can trust and bring in and draw in. Those people were in service to you. Yes.
And you can look at the wider picture, of course, in his word. That's good. But also, I think sometimes some of the great worship songs or old hymns with a good teaching in, you can listen to some of those, and in listening to the words, because it is the words, they can also minister to you, can't you? Yes. And so it is finding the ways that you, as you say, can back off and look.
Don't lock the door on those ways, because that's what we do when we fall, even when we into sin. Yes. Which is part and parcel of what happened to me last year. When you fall into sin, you go, well, that's it then. Yeah. It's all over then, because God can't possibly forgive me now. I'm a Christian and I've fallen into sin. But the Lord will send you a hymn. Yeah. He will. Or somebody will text, or a her. He will send you a text. Somebody will come round unexpectedly. God will do that. Amen. But you mustn't shut the door. No, don't shut the door on that. Isn't it? Do not shut the door on that. Key.
Because if we do, I've had people say to me, think when they're in that, oh, nobody visits me. Yes. And then other people have told me that, they tried to visit that person and they hadn't let them in or whatever. And you suddenly realise that there are two sides to that story.
Absolutely, yeah.
Great, very, very practical. And I did ask you that because I know you went through that last year, and I think that's very, very practical, because we did see you down, but we saw you come back up, and we Praise saw that what God did within you as a result of it. So great, thanks.
Praise God.
Dominic, what in general terms, what does this phrase "serving the Lord" mean to you in an overall perspective?
I suppose it's not about as much as I can do because I feel good about it. It is about naturally responding to that which God put in my heart in the first place. It's about responding to a call, to something that was stirred up in me when I was a youth. When I was a child, I was a very helpful child. I would go around helping people because I believed that was the right thing to do, and I got praise for it, and probably lots of sweets as well. So it engendered in me, if I do good, then people congratulate me. It was for me. But then as I grew in my maturity a little bit and understanding, I realized that actually, even if I don't get recognized, it's not about that. It's not about the recognition. It's about serving someone who gave everything up for me.
Yeah.
It's about someone